Hello and greetings to the channel. I am your host for the day. I am indeed Bragi and I am a Viking. Now today I thought I'd dress in some finer clothes for you as I tell you an old Icelandic folk tale called the Merman of Volgar. This is a very interesting tale about a farmer who captures a merman and wants him to be his slave, for it is often said in the folklore of the merman and the folklore of the merfolk that both mermaids and mermen are very strong indeed, and when brought on the land the tail disappears and they gain the legs back and can indeed look human-like. Now many years ago, in fact many seasons, over 1,000, not long after the Vikings discovered Iceland, the land of ice and fire, there was a man, and his name was Thorgrim. And Thorgrim, well, whatever he did, he was very good at. People say that he was a mighty warrior and very good at fighting. Some folk said he was the best farmer in the district, and men were jealous of his ability to farm. But his best skill, he was often known for and talked about, was his skill at fishing. He was indeed one of the best fishermen in Iceland at the time. And one day he thought to himself, he'd not been fishing for a few weeks. He was so good he did not need to go out often, for he always caught lots of fish. And he thought to himself, whilst one morning trying to plough a field and remove big rocks out of the field, he thought, this afternoon I am going to go fishing. And so this is what he did. He called over to his men. He had a few servants and a couple of slaves, and he said, "We're going fishing today, men, so ready the boat and fetch out the tackle for fishing." Some days he would fish by using a net, and we all know where the net came from in Viking mythology, when the gods of the Azir caught Loki, the god, after he had killed Balder the Beautiful. The net was invented to catch him when Loki turned into a salmon, but as we say on the channel, that is indeed another story. And so the man in question, Thorgrim, he had his boat ready and he set sail. In this case he rowed out with his men, and he rowed for a few hours until he came to a place where it is known to be very good fishing. And today he wasn't using a net, he was using a method called line fishing, which is still practiced today. And this is where you have a very long line with a weight at the bottom, and it has many hooks with bait on. And so he let the line go into this deep ocean, and it sank with the weight until it sank to the bottom. But what he did not know was where he was fishing, there was a village at the bottom of the sea where the Merfolk stood and lived. And the fishing line managed to knock a chimney off of one of the houses of the Merfolk. And one of the Mermen was annoyed by this. "Who is that looking up in the sea, fishing and damaging my house? Even Merfolk have to live in a house." And so the Merman swam up, but he was caught on one of the big hooks and he could not get off it, for the hook was barbed, and no matter how many times he tried, he could not get off the hook. And all of a sudden, up on the top of the ocean, the men felt a heavy weight on the line, and they thought to themselves, "Ha! We have caught a mighty fish here, a fish that will feed us for weeks." And so they started to haul up the line, haul away, heave away, haul away, until eventually the line got towards the boat where the hooks were, and thinking that they would find a giant fish, what they saw in the ocean was a merman with a beard and blonde hair, And well, Thorgrim, being a clever man, he thought, "Ha ha! I have an opportunity here to capture this merman and to make him a slave, for he will be worth coin, and many a man would travel around to see him, and even would want to buy him off me." And so this is what he did. He told the men to haul him on board the ship, and the merman, being big and strong, he put up a fight, but still he was fastened on the hook, on the line, and the men managed to get him on board. And as soon as he was on board the boat, his fishy tail vanished, and there where the tail was, he had 2 legs, powerful strong legs. And Thorgrim, being a wise and clever man, and very quick with his mind, said, "We must put this merman into a sack, a leather sack, to stop him from escaping." For this was a sack they often put the fish in, and so very quickly they emptied out the fish they had already caught, and they put the merman into the leather sack, and it came up to his neck, and they got the drawstring and pulled it tight, so the merman could not escape overboard and get away. And so, having such a prize win, a prize find in his boat, they rowed back to shore, rowing and rowing the few leagues, until they landed on a coastline where the man Thorgrim had a jetty. And so they landed the boat, tied it off, and as soon as Thorgrim got on the jetty, his dog, his favourite dog, came up to him, all loving, wanting attention. But Thorgrim was not in a happy mood that day, and he kicked the dog with his leg, or tried to, but the dog was faster than him and managed to escape being kicked. And the merman, he looked down at the dog, he looked up at Thorgrim, and he laughed. "Ha ha 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 ha!" And Thorgrim, the man, gave him a bit of a look, thinking, "Why is he laughing at me?" And so Thorgrim got the merman on his back. He was a very strong fellow, was Thorgrim, and started to walk up a small path to his longhouse. After a few metres, about 20 metres, it got too heavy, so he started to drag the sack on the ground with the merman inside. But as he came halfway between the jetty and his longhouse, there was an old mound in the path, and whilst Thorgrim was trying to pull the merman up the path, he tripped over, and again the merman looked down at the path and the hump in the path, and he looked up at Thorgrim and he said, "Ha ha ha ha!" He did not point, for his arms were fastened in the bag, but the laughing annoyed Thorgrim for a second time, and Thorgrim wondered, why is the merman laughing? If I was in a leather sack, about to become a slave to a mighty man, I would not laugh. And so Thorgrim managed to pull the merman up the path until he came to a bit of a hill where his longhouse stood. And just as he got there, his wife came out in a very happy mood and wanting to give Thorgrim a cuddle and a kiss. But Thorgrim shunned her away, for again he was not in the best of moods. And the merman looked and laughed again. "Ha ha 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 ha!" laughed the merman. And Thorgrim looked at the merman in disgust at the laughing, and thinking to himself in his mind, "Why is this merman laughing at me?" He had no answers to this. And so eventually he managed to get the merman inside his longhouse, and he set him free, and he got some metal shackles, and he shackled his feet up so he could not escape, and tied it to a post in a corner of the longhouse. And all night the merman, whenever he looked at Thorgrim and Thorgrim looked at the merman, he laughed at him, "Ha ha ha," pointing his fingers this time. And well, this kind of upset Thorgrim, and he went to bed. It was dusk. He had to be up early in the morning to go and farm the land and continue the work. But he could not settle, he could not sleep, thinking about the merman and wondering why he laughed at him 3 times. when he was carrying up to the longhouse. And so eventually about 3 in the morning he got up and he went to the merman and said, "You must tell me why you are laughing at me, for this concerns me and upsets me." And the merman said, "I'm not going to tell you anything." He said, "I'll only tell you if you promise to set me free." And so Thorgrim stroked his beard and he said, "Okay, if you tell me the reason why, and if you're telling me the truth, I will set you free and take you back to where I caught you and let you go back to the ocean, to the merfolk." And so the merman explained that when Thorgrim got him on his jetty and the dog came up to him, he said, first of all, he said, the dog came up to you, your favourite dog, and he was showing you love and affection, but you tried to kick him, and I laughed because of that, because of how affectionate your dog was and how unaffectionate you were towards the dog. And then he said later on, when you was dragging me up the path and you tripped over the mound, I laughed again, for I know under that mound is a large chest, and that chest is full of gold and silver. And being a Viking, his ears picked up and his eyes got bigger, for he loved gold and silver, as every Viking lived for gold and silver, wealth and fame as well. And he said, "Well, if you are telling me the truth, I will go now with a spade and go and dig up the mound and see what's under there." And this is what he did. He got a wooden spade and he went down to the path and he started digging. And what do you think he found, folks? Do you think he found nothing? No, he did indeed find a big chest, and that chest was rammed full of gold and silver. At that point, he knew the merman was telling the truth. And then he said, "Why did you laugh when my wife came up to me and kissed me and hugged me?" And the merman said, "Well, you have been rather suspicious of your wife, for you have heard rumours, no doubt, that your wife is having an affair with one of the local farmers. But that is not true, for your wife loves you very much." And so Thorgrim stroked his beard and realised that the rumours he had heard are not true. And he said, "I will set you free in the morning." And so in the morning Thorgrim and the merman got up. He gave the merman a hearty breakfast and a big horn of mead, and then with his men they rode out to the place where the merman was caught, and they set him free, and never again was the merman seen. The end of the tale. It is an interesting tale. It is interesting again how the number 3 appears. Why did not the merman laugh at 4 or 5 things? Why was it 3 things that happened? And again, it's always interesting to find treasure in a tale. How many times has Thorgrim walked over that mound in the path and never wondered why there was a mound? If it was me, I would be curious and I would get one of my men to dig it up, just in case there was a large chest of gold. And I hope you've enjoyed this tale. Please leave a comment, and if you are new to the channel, both Bragi, me, and Egil welcome you to the channel. Welcome! And please go and subscribe and click on the old subscription bar. But don't forget, folks, to also go and click the notification bell. By doing that, you will be notified when we publish our content, which is about 3 or 4 times a week on average. And when we get back to filming after the old COVID-19 crisis, no doubt you will see further content on the channel. Goodbye. I'm now going to go this way. I go and check my borders on my land before the sun sets, and I have to go in and eat a good hearty meal. Goodbye, folks. Stay safe, please. I do like this hat. It is rather nice.